Part 1. Not every man gets to say he's living his dream. I could. My name's Michael, and for most of my adult life, I woke up every morning next to Mary, my wife, my best friend, my safe place. If you'd asked me to describe happiness back then, I wouldn't have talked about money or vacations or anything fancy. I would have pointed to our kitchen table, where two mismatched coffee mugs sat each morning. One black with the words, "Coffee first, questions later," and one pale blue with a chip on the handle Mary refused to throw away. That was us. Imperfect in all the perfect ways. We met back in college, Mary and I. She was majoring in graphic design, always carrying around these little sketchbooks filled with doodles and quotes, and I was the guy who asked to borrow a pencil just so I had an excuse to talk to her. She saw right through it, but gave me the pencil anyway. And eventually, her number. From the start, it wasn't fireworks and drama. It was ease. It was natural. We just fit. We dated for a few years, got married in our late 20s, bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood where people waved from their porches, and we built something solid. Our life had a rhythm, and God, I loved that rhythm. Every morning, I'd wake up around 6:30. Mary was always still asleep, curled under the blanket, one arm draped across my chest or tucked beneath her. She mumbled nonsense in her sleep sometimes, little snippets of her dreams, usually hilarious or surreal. Once, she muttered something about raccoons in a canoe, and I still tease her about it. I'd slip out of bed without waking her, pad downstairs in bare feet, and start the coffee. Duke, our golden retriever, would stretch and yawn dramatically before flopping next to my feet. That dog thought he was the king of the castle, and we pretty much let him believe it. By the time Mary came down, the kitchen would smell like coffee and toast, the sunlight would be spilling through the windows just right, and the world felt calm. She'd always greet me with a sleepy kiss and a groggy "mornin', babe," before reaching for her mug like a woman on a mission. She hated black coffee. Always said it tasted like regret. Her mug had to be filled with cream and sugar to the point that I joked she was just drinking warm dessert. She didn't care. "You like your soul bitter," she'd say. "I like mine sweet." After coffee, we'd go about our day. I worked as a senior analyst for a logistics firm, and she freelanced from home, designing websites, logos, and the occasional wedding invite. Her creativity amazed me. She could take a blank screen and turn it into something that made people stop scrolling. I used to sneak behind her and kiss her on the neck while she worked, just to hear her gasp and pretend to be annoyed. Evenings were peaceful. I'd come home to music playing, usually something mellow, like Amos Lee or Norah Jones, and the smell of whatever Mary was attempting for dinner. She wasn't a gourmet chef, but she tried, and honestly, even when she burned the garlic bread or mixed up salt for sugar, it felt like love on a plate. Sometimes we'd dance in the kitchen. No music, just me and her, swaying slowly between the counter and the fridge, Duke barking like a lunatic because he thought we were playing. That kitchen saw more love than most bedrooms. Fridays were sacred. We had this unspoken rule: no plans, no guests, no distractions. Just us, pizza, wine, and a movie we'd both pretend to watch but never finish because we'd end up talking about everything and nothing. Saturdays we'd walk around the local farmer's market, fingers laced together, sipping overpriced lemonade and judging vegetables like we were experts. Sundays were for naps, laundry, and grilling, rain or shine. Vacations were simple: road trips, cabins, beach cottages. Once we took a train cross-country, just for the hell of it. Mary documented every moment: sketches, Polaroids, journal entries. She was a memory hoarder in the best way. Our house had scrapbooks stacked like treasure maps of our life together. We had our traditions, inside jokes, songs that made us pause and smile. She couldn't pass a dog without saying, "That one's cuter than Duke," just to get a rise out of him. I couldn't pass her in the hallway without pulling her into a kiss. We were that couple, the one you roll your eyes at, but kind of hope you end up like. And the truth is, it wasn't perfect. We had our little arguments about the thermostat, her forgetting where she put the keys, me being stubborn during road trips, but those fights were pebbles on a smooth path. Nothing sharp, nothing lasting. If love is a house, ours was built brick by brick, steady, intentional, and with a damn good foundation. And every night, when I crawled into bed beside her, wrapped my arm around her waist, and felt her fingers intertwine with mine under the blanket, I thanked whatever forces in the universe that gave me this life. This love, This woman. Because I didn't just have a good life. I had the life. Part 2. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about cracks in the glass. They don't make a sound until it's too late. At first, I didn't even call them red flags. Just off moments. Weird feelings I couldn't explain. I remember the first one. It was small. Mary had always been the type to greet me at the door when I got home. Not in a 1950s housewife way, just a natural thing between us. She'd hear my keys in the door and yell out, "Hey babe, you're just in time to save dinner," or quick, distract Duke before he eats the mailman again. Something light, something warm. But one Thursday, I walked in and the house was quiet. No music. No scent of dinner. Duke trotted over, tail wagging, but Mary didn't appear. I called out, "Hey, I'm home," and heard her voice faintly from upstairs, "Be down in a sec." When she came down, her smile was delayed. Off rhythm, like she was distracted. Said she was finishing a call with her sister, but her phone wasn't in her hand. No big deal, right? But it kept happening. The missed greetings. The cold coffee still in the pot like she'd forgotten our morning ritual. I chalked it up to stress. Maybe a client was driving her crazy. She was a freelancer, and sometimes the design world could be brutal, unrealistic deadlines, clueless clients, endless revisions. Then it was the phone. Mary had never been secretive. Her phone used to lie face up on the counter, buzzing every now and then with group chats from her design buddies or her sister's long rants about her boyfriend. But lately, it was always face down. Locked tighter than Fort Knox. Notifications off. I'd joke, "Who you hiding in there? The FBI?" And she'd laugh too loud and brush it off with, "You're paranoid, Michael." But it wasn't just the phone. She was elsewhere. Even when she was home. One night we were watching a show we both loved, something we'd been binging together for weeks. Halfway through the episode, I looked over and realized she hadn't reacted to a single thing. No gasps, no laughter. Her eyes were on the screen, but her mind was somewhere else. I paused it and asked, "You all right?" She blinked, startled. "Yeah, sorry. Just tired." I let it go. Then came the absences. Mary had always worked from home. Sometimes she'd meet clients at a coffee shop or a shared workspace downtown, but she always let me know. Now, she'd be gone for hours. "Just running errands," she'd say. "Had to swing by Staples." You wouldn't believe how hard it is to find a decent printer cartridge. I believed her. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? Still, it got harder not to notice the shifts. The missed texts. The "sorry, phone died" excuses. The way she'd jump in the shower the second she walked through the door. That was new. And our intimacy? That was the real change. Mary had always been affectionate. Touching me when she walked by. Kissing my neck while I brushed my teeth. Reaching for my hand under the table at restaurants. But that started fading. Slowly. Subtly. First she stopped initiating. Then she started pulling away. I remember one night I leaned in to kiss her, and she turned her face just slightly, barely noticeable, but enough that I caught her cheek instead of her lips. She smiled and said, "I'm just tired tonight, babe." And tired she stayed. For weeks. I told myself it was a phase. Everyone hits dry spells. People get busy, stressed, distant. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who starts acting suspicious just because his wife had a few off days. But then Caleb started acting weird too. He'd always been a constant presence in our lives. My best friend at work. My go-to guy. We'd had each other's backs since the first cubicle we shared. Mary adored him like a brother. He was over all the time, grilling with us, helping out with house projects, crashing on our couch when he was too lazy to drive home after a few beers. But lately, he'd gotten distant. It started with him declining invitations. Then short, clipped conversations at work. He stopped joking around, stopped asking about Mary. Once, I mentioned how she was thinking about redesigning the living room, and he just said, "Huh," and walked off to refill his coffee. That wasn't like him. Another time, I saw him at the copier, phone in hand, looking flustered. When he saw me, he shoved it into his pocket like a teenager hiding something from his parents. I raised an eyebrow, and he said, "Just texting my cousin, he's dealing with some crap," before walking off. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was just noticing things because I'd started looking for them. But that's how it starts, isn't it? A pause in the conversation that used to flow. A smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. A story that doesn't hold up the light. By the time I admitted to myself that something might be wrong, I felt like I'd already been behind the curve. Like the game had started without me and I'd shown up 2 innings late. Still, I wasn't panicking. Not yet. just watching, listening, trying to make sense of the dissonance. The woman I married was still there, still beautiful, still brilliant, but it felt like she was slipping through my fingers, slow and silent like sand. I didn't suspect anything. Not yet. I just didn't feel like her husband anymore. Part 3. They say the truth always comes out. What they don't tell you is how it feels when it does. There's no warning bell, no gentle tap on the shoulder. It comes in swinging, fists clenched, ready to destroy. I wasn't even looking for proof. Not really. I was still in that in-between phase, where you know something's off, but you'd rather swallow glass than believe the worst. But the truth doesn't wait for your permission. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary in every way. I left work early to surprise Mary with lunch. She texted me that morning, said she was having a lazy work-from-bed day, so I figured I'd swing by with her favorite spicy pad thai, extra peanuts, no bean sprouts. Just something sweet. A small gesture, the kind you make when you're trying to reconnect. I parked out front. Caleb's car was there. My first thought wasn't even suspicion. That's how far in denial I still was. My brain told me maybe he was helping her with something design stuff, maybe even fixing her laptop. It wasn't until I reached the front door that something hit me. A gut punch, low and sharp. I stood there for a second, food in hand, trying to shake the feeling. The house was too quiet. No music, no Duke barking, no TV murmuring in the background. I stepped inside. Shoes on the floor, his sneakers, next to her slippers. A trail of a jacket here, a hoodie there. The pad thai felt like it weighed 100 pounds in my hand. Then I heard it. Not moaning, not obvious. Just laughter. Hers. Followed by a voice I knew too well. Caleb. I moved slowly. Like my body already knew what my mind didn't want to process. Down the hall. Past the family photos she loved to rearrange every few months. To the bedroom. The door wasn't even closed. I saw everything. Her legs around him. His hand in her hair. The sheets we bought last Christmas twisted around bodies I couldn't even recognize as human in that moment. They weren't people. They were a crime scene. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, frozen, the takeout bag still in my hand, like some tragic comedy prop. She saw me first. Froze mid-movement. Mouth opened. Eyes wide. Caleb turned his head, eyes meeting mine, and I swear, for a second, he looked almost relieved. Like getting caught was easier than keeping the lie alive. I dropped the food. The bag hit the floor with a flat slap. Michael, she started, voice cracking. Don't, I said. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was emptiness. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left a hollow echo in its place. Caleb stood up, fumbling for his clothes. Man, I didn't mean for it to happen like this. That's what he said. Not sorry. Not this was a mistake. Just that he didn't mean for it to happen like this. I walked out. No yelling. No fighting. Just left. Drove around for an hour, maybe 2. Parked by the lake where Mary and I used to picnic years ago, before the house, before Duke, before the wedding. I sat there watching the water, and it hit me in waves. Not anger. Not betrayal. Just disbelief. Like waking up in a world where gravity stopped working. I didn't go back that night. I stayed in a motel, one of those roadside places with faded curtains and buzzing vending machines. I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. Every laugh they'd shared. Every time Caleb sat at my table. Every conversation where Mary looked me in the eyes and lied with such calm, such ease. The next morning, I got a message from her. Just 5 words. Please come home. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. Then Caleb messaged me too. I know I can undo it. I hope someday you'll understand. Understand? Understand what? That the 2 people I trusted most decided to burn my life to the ground and expected me to hand them the matches? I took the day off work. Told my boss I was dealing with a personal emergency. I sat down and wrote everything out. Not for her. Not for him. For me. Every time she canceled a plan. Every time he dodged a question. Every suspicious glance I brushed aside. The signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. That night, I drove home. Not to make peace. Not to fix anything. I needed to look her in the eye one more time. Not because I loved her, because I needed closure. She cried. She begged. Said it was a mistake. Said it didn't mean anything. Said she felt lonely, confused, disconnected. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just asked her one question. How long? She hesitated. That was her answer. I packed a bag. Told her I'd be staying elsewhere until we figured out the next steps. She tried to stop me, tried to touch my arm, to plead, but her hands felt like strangers. And Caleb? I blocked his number, took down the photos, erased him. And one day, I lost my wife and my best friend. And somehow, I still felt like the one who should have seen it coming. Part 4. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. It's best served slow, calculated, dressed in patience, and delivered with a smile that tells them you're not broken. You've just begun. I spent the first week after it all blew up doing exactly what they didn't expect. Nothing. No threats. No dramatic confrontations. I let them marinate in silence. That's where guilt grows best, quiet rooms with too much time to think. Mary texted. A lot. Paragraphs about how she made a mistake. Voice notes where she cried. Photos of Duke, like the dog was a bridge back to forgiveness. I didn't respond. Caleb tried once, some generic crap about how he never meant to hurt me. Blocked. Gone. Like he never existed. But inside, I wasn't sitting still. I was planning. You see, betrayal cracks something in you. But if you're smart, you don't fall apart. You sharpen the pieces. First, the house. Mary thought I'd leave it behind, like some broken memory. What she didn't know was the house was in my name only. I bought it 2 years before we married. She begged me to add her after the wedding. I didn't. Not out of foresight, just procrastination. For once, laziness worked in my favor. I met with a lawyer. Laid it all out. He called it one of the cleanest leverage plays he'd ever seen. You own the property outright? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Every nail? I said. Then we're not negotiating. You're dictating. We drafted the paperwork. I gave her 60 days to vacate. The look on her face when I delivered it? Priceless. Not angry. Just stunned. Like she still thought there was a version of this story where we could work through it. Next came work. Caleb and I weren't just friends. We were tied at the hip professionally. Same department, same floor, desks 15 feet apart. He was the golden boy, the one who could close deals and crack jokes at the same time. But he had a weakness. One he forgot I knew about. A few years back, he'd used company funds to wine and dine a potential client. Nothing major, except that client never signed. Technically, it was a violation of policy. I'd helped him bury it back then. This time, I unearthed it. I didn't go to HR. I went to his replacement. The firm had just promoted a new department lead, a hard-nosed, reputation-obsessed shark named Valerie. I handed her the receipts, the emails, the timeline. Let her connect the dots. I didn't even have to say Caleb's name. Within 3 days, his ID badge didn't work. That was the professional kill. Personal? I was just getting started. Mary's freelance business relied heavily on local reputation. Small-town clients. Word-of-mouth referrals. What she didn't realize was how many of those clients had once come through me. Friends. Old coworkers. Golf buddies. People who trusted me. I didn't badmouth her. That would have made me look petty. I just started mentioning I was in the market for a new designer. Quietly, respectfully. People picked up on the shift. A few asked, what happened with Mary? And I just shrugged. We're going through some stuff. I'm keeping it private. Turns out, when you don't scream, people lean in closer. Clients backed away from her like she had the plague. I didn't ask them to. I didn't have to. The silence said enough. Then came the final move. Mary's birthday was coming up. Her friends were planning a surprise party. I knew because I was still on the group text, apparently no one thought to remove me. So I played along. Said I'd help cover the cost. Said I'd show up. I didn't. Instead, I sent flowers. 12 black roses. No card. She got them right before they cut the cake. The group text imploded afterward. Friends picking sides. Some calling me cold. Others saying they couldn't believe what Mary had done. One friend texted me privately and said, I always thought you were too good for her. That one hit different. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Here's the thing about revenge. It's not about hurting them. Not really. It's about reminding yourself that you still hold the pen. That no matter how badly they tried to rewrite your story, you've got the ending. And mine? Mine looked a lot like peace. I adopted a new routine. Woke up early. Took Duke for long walks. Picked up an old hobby, woodworking. Built a bench for the porch. Something solid. Something mine. I went back to work. New department. Fresh start. Valerie respected me. Said she'd been watching me for a promotion. Said I handled everything with precision. I told her I don't do chaos. She smiled and said, good. We've got enough of that already. Mary moved out. left behind a box labeled Michael's stuff. I didn't open it. Just threw it in the garage with the other trash I planned to deal with later. Caleb? Last I heard, he moved 2 towns over. Some dead-end job. No one misses him. Not even Duke. Funny how fast the world forgets people who were once your whole life. But me? I remember everything. And I don't regret a damn second of how I took it back. Part 5. There's a certain power in surviving something meant to break you. People don't talk about that part, the rebirth. They linger on the betrayal, the fall, the drama. But what comes next? That's where the Rayall story begins. After Mary packed up her lies and moved out, I didn't throw a pity party. I didn't turn to bottles or breakdowns. I didn't chase closure. She had already said everything I needed to hear the day I found her wrapped in my best friend, like loyalty meant nothing. I was done being the nice guy. I burned the bed we shared. Literally. Hauled the damn thing out to the backyard, lit it up, and watched the flames dance like justice. Duke sat next to me, tail wagging like it was just another Saturday. It wasn't. It was my funeral for the man I used to be. The one who trusted blindly, who gave without asking, who let love turn him soft. No more. I upgraded everything. New locks, new furniture, stripped the walls of her photos, her decorations, her little quotes about, home is where the heart is. Please, home is where the respect lives. And she killed that. I turned the spare room into a gym. Pushed myself harder than ever. Bench, deadlifts, pull-ups until my arms trembled. Pain became my therapist. Sweat replaced sorrow. I dropped 15 pounds of married comfort weight and gained back every ounce of confidence she tried to drain from me. You want tough? Here's tough. I stopped explaining myself. When mutual friends reached out, I let them talk. I didn't offer my side. I didn't beg for sympathy. I told them if they wanted to stay in my life, they had to earn it. A few disappeared. Good. Dead weight cuts itself off when you stop carrying it. I didn't just rebuild, I evolved. Started waking up at 5 a.m. Cold showers. No snooze button. Discipline over comfort. Every day began with 3 things. A black cup of coffee, 30 minutes of silence, and a promise to never be that blind, naive man again. I signed up for a tactical shooting course. Joined a jiu-jitsu gym. Call it overkill. I call it insurance. You get blindsided once, shame on them. You let it happen again. You asked for it. At work, I turned ruthless. Promotions weren't suggestions anymore. They were expectations. I took on high-risk projects, led meetings with fire in my voice, and stopped watering down my opinions to make people comfortable. If someone couldn't handle the truth, they weren't worth the conversation. Valerie, my boss, noticed. She called me into her office one day, leaned back in her chair, and said, "You're a different animal now, Michael." "Wasn't born this way," I said. But pain's a hell of a motivator. 6 months post-betrayal, I was unrecognizable, in the best way. Leaner, sharper, more dangerous, more focused. My house was mine again. My mind was mine again. My future? Wide open. Mary reached out one last time. A message that started with, "I've been doing a lot of thinking." I deleted it without opening. Closure is a luxury you lose when you choose deceit. As for Caleb, I never spoke his name again. Let the man rot in whatever half-life he'd traded my friendship for. Betrayal has a way of haunting cowards. I didn't need revenge anymore. I was too busy living a life he could never access. I started dating again, but on my terms. No fairy tale expectations. No giving away the keys to the kingdom without a damn background check. I wasn't bitter. I was bulletproof. One woman asked me over dinner, "What happened to make you so focused?" I looked her in the eye and said, "I let the wrong people close once. They didn't just burn me. They taught me how to walk through fire." She smiled. "So you're not afraid of getting hurt again?" I took a sip of my whiskey. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. And that's the truth. I don't miss Mary. I don't miss the old me. I don't dwell on the nights I spent wondering where it went wrong, because I know now, some people aren't a loss. They're a lesson. And once you've learned it, you're free. I've got a life built from concrete now. No illusions. No weak spots. Just strength earned the hard way. I sleep like a man with nothing to regret. I wake up ready to conquer. The world didn't break me. It made me unbreakable. The end.